Okay guys, right now we're going to talk about the difference between charting your cycle via paper or via an app on your phone. And I'm going to kind of talk about the pros and cons of each in my mind and through my experience. First, we'll start with paper because that is how I learned how to chart my cycle, and I think it is a great place for beginners to start, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk about why I think that in a second. So the first pro for me is, this is a fake chart I have created. If you see stuff, this isn't my actual chart. So the first pro that I think is it is all laid out in one sheet for you. You can see your temperatures, your fluids, your symptoms, what sort of things were happening throughout the month. It's all in one place, so you can see, you can link up, oh, that's why that was happening, or that, it just all makes better sense to me when it's laid out. I'm a very visual person. I think that charting via a piece of paper, charting via a paper chart is a really good place to look into your cycle. Like I said before, it's all laid out in front of you. And I think that it's easier to see the connections of things, especially when you're starting off, when you're looking at it on a piece of paper. Thirdly, I think it's just a really good place for people to start learning how to chart. Because it forces you to pretty much do it all yourself, and you have to learn how to, use the different rules, draw your low temperature line, your high temperature line, figure out where your peak day is, figure out where you're fertile, and you don't have a piece of technology telling you that. And so I think it's a good thing to fully understand it by using paper first. And finally, I think it's very easy to look back at your past cycles and to compare them by having them all on pieces of paper. I would say that a great thing to do if you use paper charts, or you want to start using paper charts, is to get a binder, and you can 3-hole punch them, put them into little clear dividers or what have you. And if you want to compare your cycle from November 2015 to November 2014, or 6 months before, you can just pull those two out and look at them, and you can see how they've changed or how they've remained the same. And I think it's just very easy to have everything you need to know in one place at once. Now let's go into the cons of the paper. I think that for me personally, it was hard for me to remember, because things will happen throughout your day when you're not at home, and I would forget to write them down on my paper chart at the end of the day. You have to really set a reminder almost on your phone to sit down and write about your fluids, your sensations, your symptoms, activities you did that day, or other notes. And I wasn't very good at that. So that's why I switched over to the app in the first place. And the only other con I could think of was if you have a problem with having papers lying about. I think if you put them into a binder or had a designated place for them, I think a binder would work really well. It could help organize them, but at the same time, if you live in a small space or you're trying to have less things, then bulky binders with your charts in them could take up too much space for you. But that's a small thing. So let's set that one down. And next we'll talk about using an app to chart your cycle. I currently use Clue. I don't even need to look on my phone for that. I did use, I believe it was called the Period Tracker app, but I switched over to Clue. And so yeah, let's talk about some pros. So the first pro is it's very convenient. You always have your phone with you. And so in that sense, it leads me to the second pro, is it's always right there to put your symptoms in. Like I said, I had a really hard time remembering to come home and write down my things on my chart, my paper chart, but I can put them in immediately as they're happening through my phone. Technology is a great thing. You can look and see what your average cycle length is, and it calculates it over however long you've been using that particular app. And so I can click into my history, and I started using this app in March of 2015, it seems. So in that time, it talks about your current cycle versus your average. So my average has been 26 days. And so you can scroll down and see all of your past cycles, when it says you ovulated, and how long that cycle was. And then you can click onto that one for further information. And the last one, just to kind of play on a con I talked about with the paper, it's not bulky, it takes up no space, you have your phone anyways, and so it's all digital, and so you don't have papers or binders laying around if that's a problem for you. So let's talk about my cons for the app. The first one is you're relying on a piece of technology, and especially if you're just curious and you want to start just charting your cycle just to see, then an app is great. But if you actually really want to learn about your cycle, or if you want to learn about the fertility awareness method, then I think using paper is a great thing, and I think it's almost necessary to actually learn about your cycle. You can't really learn too much by using an app, because you kind of like put it in there and forget it. This, for a paper, it's all laid out. You look at it every single day, all of it at once, and at the end of the month you kind of look back on it. You only really see what particular thing you're working on. So when you click on it, all you see is this current cycle, your period, your fertility window, and where you're at now, and you can click on that data, and so you really only have what you have from that day and nothing more. And so just kind of also along those lines, it's hard. While it's very easy to go back and look at your average cycle length, and you can click into your different cycles, you can't really lay them out and compare them. It's harder to compare them. And so seeing it all at once isn't as convenient through an app. Well guys, that's all I really have to say about my pros versus cons for an app versus paper charting. Let me know what you use, what you have used, what you prefer, and let me know if you're interested in learning more about paper charting, because I will talk about that. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.